Sometimes the sweetest beginnings prepare the hardest storms. Blessing was born into a home of love, laughter, and discipline. Her father, Mr. Johnson, was a respected civil servant known for honesty, while her mother, Comfort, was a primary school teacher with a gentle but firm nature. Their small bungalow in Ua was not filled with riches, but with peace, prayers, and dreams. Every morning, Comfort would wake Blessing with songs of praise. Rise and shine, my sunshine. Education is the wings that will take you higher than the eagles. Never play with your books. Blessing would giggle, rub her eyes, and sometimes pretend to still be asleep just to enjoy her mother's playful taps. At night, after supper, Mr. Johnson often gathered his family for prayers. You will make us proud. Blessing, barely in JSS1, would nod eagerly, her eyes shining with big dreams. But life, as it often does, had its dark turn. Her steps slowed, and her laughter disappeared. Her once energetic voice weakened. Blessing, too young to understand, would sit by her bedside holding her hand. Mummy, when will you play 10-10 with me again? Comfort would smile weakly, brushing her daughter's cheek. At night, after supper, Mr. Johnson often gathered his family for prayers. He would lift his daughter onto his lap and say, My Blessing, you are not just a child, you are my legacy. One day, I will see you in the best university in Nigeria. You will make us proud. Blessing, barely in JSS1, would nod eagerly, her eyes shining with big dreams. But life, as it often does, had its dark turn. Comfort fell ill one rainy season. At first, it was just weakness and coughing. The family thought it was malaria. But as weeks stretched into months, she became frail. Her once energetic voice weakened, her steps slowed, and her laughter disappeared. Blessing, too young to understand, would sit by her bedside holding her hand. Mummy, when will you play 10-10 with me again? Comfort would smile weakly, brushing her daughter's cheek. Soon, my daughter. But even if I can't play, always remember education will open doors even when people close them against you. Those words became carved into Blessing's heart. The sickness grew worse. Trips to hospitals drained Mr. Johnson's savings. Neighbors prayed and visited, but the shadow of death grew heavier. One cold morning, while Blessing was preparing for school, a scream tore through the house. Comfort had breathed her last. Blessing rushed into the room and saw her father kneeling by the bed, crying uncontrollably. She ran to her mother's body, shaking her. Mummy, wake up. You promised to see me finish school. Please don't leave me. But the silence was final. The funeral was filled with tears. Blessing clung to her mother's coffin as men tried to lower it into the ground. She cried so hard that even strangers wept at the sight. Who will braid my hair now? Who will buy me a car after school? She wailed. The villagers pitied the little girl. Some whispered, Such a bright child, so young to lose her mother. May God protect her. Life after the burial was never the same. Tried to fill the gap, the house that once rang with. Laughter became quiet. Mr. Johnson. But grief weighed on him. He went to work early, came home tired, and sometimes sat in silence, staring at his late wife's pictures. Blessing missed her mother's warmth terribly. She often cried at night, pressing her small face into her mother's wrapper, which she kept hidden under her pillow. Still, she carried her mother's words in her heart like a treasure. Education will open doors. To the outside world, she looked like just another child who lost her mother. But inside, a seed of resilience had been planted. She promised herself, I will read, I will succeed, I will make my parents proud. And though she did not know it then, the storms ahead would test that promise in ways that would bring tears, betrayals, and unexpected blessings. The house had grown silent. It had been months since the death of Mrs. Johnson, and the once lively laughter that used to echo through the walls had vanished. The dining table, where Blessing once shared jokes with her parents, now felt like a cold wooden slab. Mr. Johnson ate with little appetite, often staring into space. Blessing, who was an SS1 at the time, did her best to be cheerful, but her little heart carried too much grief for her age. Every night she prayed in tears, "God, please help Daddy smile again. And please give me a mother who will love me." One evening, as the harmattan winds blew through the cracked windows, Mr. Johnson called Blessing to sit beside him. His voice was gentle but carried weight. "Blessing, my angel," he began, holding her tiny hand in his. "You know how much I love you." "Yes, Daddy," Blessing whispered, her eyes searching his face. "You also know that your mother would have wanted us to be happy, to keep living." His eyes watered as he paused. I've been thinking of remarrying. You need a woman to care for you, and I need help with the home." Blessing blinked rapidly, her young mind swirling. "Another mother?" Her lips trembled. "But Daddy, will she love me like Mummy did?" Mr. Johnson squeezed her hand tightly. "I'll make sure she does. I'll never let anyone hurt you. Do you understand?" Blessing nodded slowly, though deep down, a small knot of fear formed in her chest. Weeks later, the house changed. Mr. Johnson brought home a new woman, Madame Grace. She was strikingly beautiful, with smooth skin, neatly tied gel, and a smile so wide it seemed to command the room. She walked into the Johnson home with bags of gifts, her perfume filling the air with a strong floral scent. The first day, she opened her arms and embraced Blessing tightly. "My daughter," she said, almost singing the words. "Don't worry, I will love you like my own." Her voice was smooth, almost too smooth, like honey poured over sharp edges. Blessing, though still shy, leaned into the hug. She whispered, "Thank you, Ma." For the first time in months, she thought maybe God had answered her prayer. At first, Grace played her role perfectly. She cooked delicious meals, jollof rice that filled the air with rich spices, pepper soup that warmed their throats. She washed Mr. Johnson's clothes herself, kneeling by the basin in the backyard with laughter as though she was happy to serve. She even brought Blessing small gifts, new sandals, shiny hair ribbons, and sometimes meat pies from the market. "Blessing," Grace would say in her sugary tone, "you are now my daughter. Whatever your mates have, you too will have." Blessing's heart, though still grieving, began to soften. One evening she thought to herself, "Maybe God has truly given me another mother. Maybe I can smile again." But outside the Johnson house, whispers stirred. The neighbors, especially the older women who sat in front of their compounds, peeling melon seeds, would glance at Grace and shake their heads. "That woman," one whispered to another. "Her smile is wide, but her heart. Time will tell. I have seen her type," another responded, adjusting her wrapper. "Too sweet in the beginning, but wait. The real character will soon appear." Sometimes Blessing overheard these whispers as she walked past, clutching her schoolbooks. She felt confused. Why are they saying that? Mama Grace is kind, isn't she? One evening, as the sun dipped low, painting the sky orange, Grace sat with Mr. Johnson on the veranda, her hand resting gently on his arm. She spoke with a voice filled with sweetness. "My husband, you are the joy of my life. I will take care of you and Blessing. She will never lack. You can trust me with your heart." Mr. Johnson smiled, relief washing over him. "Thank you, Grace. You have brought light into this home again." Blessing, sitting quietly with her notebooks, looked at the scene and allowed herself to hope. She even whispered a small prayer. "Thank you, God, for answering me. Please let her love stay true." But in the corner of her young heart, the words of the neighbors echoed faintly. "Time will tell." And so, for that season, peace seemed to return. The Johnson household smiled again, unaware that under Grace's dazzling smile lay shadows waiting to surface, shadows that would one day test Blessing's strength, faith, and destiny. Blessing was now in SS3, preparing for her WAEC exams. Her father had always encouraged her. "Blessing, you must study hard," Mr. Johnson would say, placing his hand gently on her shoulder. "Education will open doors for you, my daughter. You will make me proud." Blessing had indeed made him proud. She was intelligent, respectful, and full of hope. But just when life seemed to be finding balance, tragedy struck again. The sudden illness. It started as a simple fever. Mr. Johnson complained of body pains and tiredness. Grace fussed over him, cooking pepper soup, applying balms, and urging him to rest. But instead of improving, his condition worsened. His once strong frame grew frail. His laughter, once booming, became weak sighs. One night, Blessing overheard Grace's impatient voice in the bedroom. "You are always sick these days. Is it me that will carry all the burden? Hubba?" "Grace." Mr. Johnson coughed, his voice low. "Please, be patient. I don't know what's happening to me." Blessing pressed her small ear against the door, her heart tightening. She wanted to rush in, to comfort him, but she was only a child. Tears burned her eyes as she whispered, "God, please don't take Daddy from me too." The final day, but God's answer was not what she hoped. One morning, Blessing returned from school to see neighbors crowded at the gate. Wailing voices filled the air. She dropped her bag instantly and pushed her way through. "Let me go. That's my father," she cried, shoving past the crowd. Inside the house, she saw her father's body covered with a white cloth. His lifeless form lay still on the bed. The man who had been her anchor, her protector, was gone. "No! Daddy! Daddy! Please wake up!" Blessing screamed, throwing herself on the body. She shook him, her tears wetting the cloth. "You promised me. You said you would see me graduate. Daddy, please." But silence answered her cries. Grace cried too, but her wailing seemed louder than her pain. She rolled on the floor, slapping her chest, shouting for all to hear, "My husband! Oh, my husband! What will I do without you? Ah, death, you are wicked." Neighbors held her, murmuring comfort, but some exchanged knowing glances. Her tears seemed too dramatic, too practiced. The funeral, and the church choir sang hymns that made the air heavy with grief. Blessing wore a simple black gown, her small body trembling with every step. She clung to a neighbor's wrapper, too weak to walk on her own. At the graveside, as sand covered the coffin, Blessing felt her world collapsing. She whispered in her heart, "Now I am truly an orphan. Who will protect me? Who will love me?" Grace's wailing rose louder than everyone else's. She threw herself at the grave until women pulled her back. To the eyes of many, she looked like a broken widow. But to those who watched closely, her eyes flickered with something else. Blessing was too young to understand. The mask falls, barely a week after the burial. The house that once felt like a home turned into a prison. Grace's sweetness vanished like smoke in the wind. One evening, as Blessing sat quietly reading her notes under the dim lantern light, Grace's sharp voice cut through the silence. "Blessing," she barked. "Yes, Ma," Blessing replied timidly, standing up. Grace crossed her arms, her eyes cold. "Listen to me, and listen well. Your father is gone. Do you hear me?" Blessing's lips trembled. "Yes, Ma," You are nothing in this house now. Nothing. You will eat what I give you, wear what I give you, and do what I say. If you don't like it," her eyes narrowed, "go and join your dead parents." Blessing froze, her small hands shaking. "Please, Ma. Daddy said I should study hard. My exams." Grace laughed bitterly, her voice dripping with scorn. "Exams? School? Who will pay your fees now? Your father is gone, and I will not waste my money on another woman's child. Better forget that dream." The words stabbed Blessing like knives. She stood rooted to the ground, tears rolling silently down her cheeks. Grace leaned closer, her face twisted with hatred. "You think you're special? You are nothing without your father. From today you will scrub this house, cook my food, and wash my clothes. If you complain, I will throw you out like a stray dog. Do you hear me?" "Yes, Ma," Blessing whispered, her voice breaking. Grace smirked, satisfied. "Good. Now go wash the plates before I teach you a lesson you will never forget." Blessing's realization. That night, Blessing lay awake on her mat, staring at the ceiling. Her chest heaved as silent sobs escaped her. The walls seemed to press in on her, the darkness heavier than ever before. "I am truly alone now," she thought. "No father, no mother. Only God. Only God is left for me." She folded her hands and whispered a trembling prayer. "Lord, I don't know why you allowed this, but please, don't let me die in this woman's hands. Give me strength. Show me that you are still here." And though no voice answered, a faint peace settled in her heart. The storm had begun, but deep inside, a seed of resilience was planted, one that Grace could not destroy. The house that once smelled of roasted corn, laughter, and evening prayers was no longer the same. Blessing now lived in a place that felt more like a prison than a home. Every day, Madame Grace tightened her grip, reminding her that she was nothing without her father. "Blessing!" Grace's shrill voice pierced through the thin walls one early morning. It was barely 4 a.m., the stars still scattered faintly across the sky. "Yes, Ma," Blessing replied weakly, dragging herself from her mat on the floor. "Go and sweep the compound before the cock crows. Lazy children don't eat in this house." The compound was large, and the harmattan breeze stung her face. Blessing picked up the broom, her hands still stiff with sleep. As she swept, tears gathered in her eyes, not just from the dust, but from the weight pressing on her young heart. By the time she finished, Grace was already in the kitchen, arms folded. "Cook breakfast. After that, fetch water, then wash my clothes. And don't think you'll eat until everyone else has eaten." Blessing nodded quietly. Her stomach grumbled, but she pressed her lips together. Speaking back meant trouble. At school, she tried to hide her pain behind her books. Teachers often praised her intelligence. "Blessing, you're one of my brightest students," said Mr. Oakham, her mathematics teacher. "But why do you always look so tired?" Blessing forced a smile. "I'm fine, sir." But the truth was written on her uniform, faded, with stitches where fabric had torn. Her classmates noticed. "See her skirt," one girl mocked. "Is this a uniform or rag cloth?" The others burst out laughing. Blessing looked away, blinking fast so her tears wouldn't fall. But in the corner of the classroom, she whispered a prayer. "God, help me. Don't let my father's spirit be ashamed of me." That evening, she returned home exhausted, only to be greeted by Grace's sneer. "So you're crying again? If tears could buy rice, you would be a millionaire by now." Grace laughed, her voice dripping with mockery. Blessing turned away silently, her shoulders shaking. She had learned that replying only brought harsher punishment. Yet in her quietness, strength was building. She endured, even when her belly was empty, even when her classmates mocked her. even when Grace's words cut deeper than knives. The months rolled by, and the burden on Blessing's young shoulders only grew heavier. Yet, despite the suffering, she never gave up on her education. Every night, after finishing Madame Grace's endless chores, she would sit under the dim glow of the kerosene lantern, her books open before her. Sometimes her eyes would blur from tears. Sometimes her stomach would growl from hunger. But still she pressed on. Her teachers began to notice. "Blessing," her mathematics teacher said one afternoon, handing back her exam script, "you are gifted. Don't waste this brain. The world is waiting for you." Her classmates whispered behind her back, mocking her torn uniform, but she didn't care. She held on to her father's words, spoken years ago. "You will go to the university one day. You will make me proud." Finally, the long-awaited results came. Blessing had passed her WAEC with distinctions, and her JAMB score was outstanding. She was the talk of the school. One morning, the postman delivered an official letter to the house. Blessing tore it open with trembling fingers, and her eyes widened. "University of Lagos," she whispered. Her hands shook as tears of joy streamed down her cheeks. "I got it. A scholarship." With the paper pressed tightly against her chest, she ran home. For the first time in years, laughter bubbled from her heart. She imagined herself walking the university grounds, meeting new friends, and fulfilling the destiny her father dreamed for her. But as she stepped into the compound, everything changed. Madame Grace was seated outside, her eyes sharp as a hawk. "What are you holding?" Grace demanded. A letter," Blessing stammered, her smile still glowing. "Mama, I have been given a scholarship to study in the University of Lagos." For a moment there was silence. Then, in one swift motion, Madame Grace snatched the letter from her hands. Her eyes darted across the page, and her lips curled into a bitter sneer. "University of Lagos? Scholarship? Do you think you are better than my children?" "No, Mama. It's not like that. Please, this is my dream. This is what Papa wanted for me." Before Blessing could finish, the sound of tearing paper filled the air. Rip, 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 the letter fell to the ground in shreds. Blessing froze, her heart shattering with each piece that fluttered onto the dusty floor. "Mama, please. Please don't do this," she cried, falling to her knees, clutching the torn fragments. "This is my future." Grace folded her arms, her eyes hard as stone. "Future? Who will pay your transport to Lagos? Who will feed you there? You will remain here and learn tailoring. Education is not for orphans." The words struck Blessing like hot iron. She sobbed, clutching the pieces of her dream to her chest. That night, lying on her mat, she wept until her pillow was soaked. She whispered into the darkness, "God, why me? Why must my own mother leave me? Why must Papa die? Why must I suffer like this?" But even as she cried, a quiet strength stirred inside her. Though her dream was torn to pieces, her hope was not dead. Somewhere deep within, she believed the same God who gave her brilliance had not abandoned her. Days turned into weeks, and Blessing's dream of entering the University of Lagos faded like smoke. Since her stepmother tore the scholarship letter, she had been living like a shadow in her father's house. The once lively, brilliant girl had become withdrawn and silent. Every morning, she swept the compound in silence while Grace muttered insults. At night, when the house was still, Blessing would sit beside the weak glow of her lantern, whispering prayers. "God of my father," she murmured, "you see me. Don't forget me. Don't let my life end like this." Months passed. Grace believed she had finally silenced her. But destiny doesn't die. It only waits for its appointed time. One afternoon, as the sun burned high, a knock echoed on the wooden gate. Grace wiped her hands on her wrapper and opened the door, surprised to see Mr. Daniel, Blessing's former teacher. "Ah, Madam Grace," he greeted politely. "Good afternoon." Grace forced a smile. "Teacher, you're welcome. Please sit down." Mr. Daniel glanced around the compound, his eyes scanning for Blessing. "How is Blessing? I heard she got a scholarship. Why haven't we seen her resume at the university?" Grace's smile faded. "Ah, you know how children can be." She changed her mind. She said she doesn't want to go again. Mr. Daniel frowned. Changed her mind, Blessing. That girl loved learning more than food. Well, I told her education is expensive. Who will sponsor her? She should learn tailoring. It's better for her kind. Mr. Daniel stared at her for a long moment, then said quietly, "Madam Grace, some destinies are not meant to be buried. I will check on her myself." Grace forced a dry laugh, but her eyes flickered nervously. That evening, Mr. Daniel reached out to a contact at a local NGO that supported brilliant but underprivileged students. "There's a young girl," he said passionately, "whose future is being suffocated. She's too intelligent to waste away in a village." The NGO followed up. They came quietly, confirmed the truth, and reviewed her previous scholarship offer. Within weeks, Blessing received news that not only was her scholarship reinstated, it now came with full support, tuition, accommodation, and a monthly stipend. When Grace heard, she slammed her pestle against the mortar in fury. "So that teacher wants to be her savior. Let me see how far she will go. University is not heaven." She barked, eyes blazing. But for Blessing, it was the dawn of freedom. On the morning of her departure, she packed her few belongings, a small box of worn clothes and her father's old wristwatch. As she stepped out, her eyes filled with tears. Grace stood by the doorway, arms folded, lips tight with envy. Blessing bowed slightly and whispered, "Thank you, Ma," then turned away. As the bus drove off toward Lagos, she pressed her face to the window, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Thank you, God," she whispered. "You are truly the father of orphans." And with that, her new life began. At the University of Lagos, Blessing excelled. She became the best student in her department, often studying until dawn. She joined fellowship and testified, "I came here with nothing, but God has been my everything." Meanwhile, life punished Madam Grace. Her wealth crumbled, her health failed, and the same neighbors she mocked turned away from her. During her final year, Blessing was invited to a youth leadership program. There she met Prince Daniel, the quiet and humble son of a traditional ruler in Lagos. He admired her intelligence and resilience. They became friends. Later, he proposed marriage. Blessing was shocked. "Me? A poor orphan? To marry a prince?" Prince Daniel smiled. "Not orphan, but jewel. Your strength and heart are more royal than any crown." Tears flowed as she remembered her sufferings. News spread across Uyo. Blessing, the girl once mocked, was marrying a prince. Madam Grace, sick and abandoned, heard it. She wept bitterly, realizing her wickedness could not stop destiny. On the wedding day, Blessing wore her crown with grace. Instead of revenge, she sent gifts to her stepmother, whispering, "I forgive you. Thank you for pushing me closer to God." Wickedness may delay destiny, but God's plan always prevails. The stone that builders reject becomes the cornerstone.